The mid-20th century was a time of immense global tension, transformation, and resistance, not just between superpowers but also between the sexes. During the Cold War, a new wave of feminism surged across the Western world, challenging traditional gender roles, confronting systemic inequality and reshaping society. Known as Second Wave Feminism, this movement gained strength in the 1960s and 1970s, emerging alongside other civil rights struggles and against the backdrop of Cold War politics. This documentary-style article explores how the Cold War climate influenced, and was influenced by, the feminist movement, highlighting the key figures, ideas, and battles that defined this powerful chapter in the fight for gender equality. What was Second Wave Feminism? Second Wave Feminism built on the legacy of the First Wave, which had focused primarily on women's suffrage and legal rights in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Second Wave, beginning in the early 1960s, expanded the agenda. It tackled issues like workplace discrimination, reproductive rights, sexual freedom, domestic labor and unpaid work, patriarchy in media, culture, and law. While the First Wave asked for inclusion in the political process, the Second Wave demanded transformation of the social structure itself. The Cold War context. The personal is political and geopolitical. The Cold War was not only a geopolitical standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, it was also a battle over ideology, identity, and the role of the individual in society. Feminists saw an opportunity and a challenge. In the United States, the Cold War shaped domestic policy and public discourse. The 1950s had promoted a return to traditional gender roles, the male breadwinner and the domestic housewife. These roles were framed as moral bulwarks against godless communism. Women were expected to serve the nation by maintaining strong families and staying out of the public sphere. But by the 1960s, this image began to crack. Many women, despite gaining education and entering the workforce in larger numbers, remained confined to lower-paid, subordinate roles. The idealized housewife life masked growing frustration, economic dependence, and systemic discrimination. The spark, Betty Friedan and the Feminine Mystique. In 1963, Betty Friedan published The Feminine Mystique, a book that gave voice to the silent dissatisfaction of countless women. She exposed what she called the problem that has no name, the sense of emptiness and limitation experienced by women who were told that domestic life was their highest calling. Friedan's book ignited a movement. Women began to form consciousness-raising groups, where they shared personal experiences that revealed common patterns of oppression. The phrase, "the personal is political," became a rallying cry. In the same year, President Kennedy's Commission on the Status of Women, chaired by Eleanor Roosevelt, released a report acknowledging gender inequality in employment, education, and legal protections. The door had been opened. Organizing for equality, now and beyond. In 1966, Friedan and others founded the National Organization for Women Now. Modeled after civil rights groups, Now demanded equal opportunity in jobs, education, and politics. It lobbied for Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibited sex discrimination in employment, and later supported the fight for the Equal Rights Amendment, ERA. But second-wave feminism was never monolithic. Radical feminists broke away from more moderate groups like Now, calling for deeper transformations in culture and power. They questioned not just legal inequality, but the structure of the family, the media's objectification of women, and male domination in leftist movements. Reproductive rights, a central battleground. One of the most divisive and vital arenas for second-wave feminism was reproductive freedom. Women fought for the right to access birth control, comprehensive sex education, and, most controversially, legal abortion. The 1973 Roe v. Wade decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, which legalized abortion nationwide, was a major victory. But it also sparked a lasting backlash, galvanizing conservative and religious groups, many of whom framed feminism as a threat to American values during the Cold War culture wars. Feminism behind the Iron Curtain. While Western feminists were fighting for liberation in liberal democracies, women in the Eastern Bloc faced a different reality. In theory, communist regimes like the Soviet Union promoted gender equality. Women worked in factories, held scientific and engineering roles, and received maternity benefits. But in practice, political repression stifled any form of grassroots feminism. State feminism existed but dissent did not. Western feminists often criticized this hypocrisy, while Soviet propagandists used women's employment in the East to claim superiority over capitalist societies. In both worlds, women's roles became a Cold War talking point. Intersectionality and emerging voices. By the late 1970s, second wave feminism began to face internal critiques. Women of color, working-class women, and LGBTQ+ activists challenged the movement's mainstream leadership for focusing primarily on the concerns of middle-class white women. Figures like Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks, and Gloria Anzaldúa expanded feminist theory to include race, sexuality, and class. These intersectional critiques laid the groundwork for what would become third-wave feminism in the 1990s. Legacy and impact. Second-wave feminism transformed society. It led to major legislative changes, e.g., Title IX Equal Pay Act, greater access to education and professional careers, the normalization of divorce, single motherhood, and sexual freedom, cultural shifts in how women saw themselves and demanded to be seen. But it also left unfinished battles. The Equal Rights Amendment was never ratified. Wage gaps and reproductive rights remain contested. And backlash from both political and religious conservatives still shapes public discourse. Second-wave feminism was born in the crucible of the Cold War, a time of nuclear brinkmanship, espionage, and ideological warfare. Yet amid this global standoff, women across the world fought their own revolution, not with missiles but with words, protests, lawsuits, and solidarity. In a world obsessed with control of borders, weapons, and ideologies, second-wave feminism asked who controls the body, the home, and the workplace. It forced societies to confront uncomfortable questions, and in doing so redefined the boundaries of freedom, not just for women but for everyone.